One of the great privileges of working at History Hit and making films together with our team at Timeline is the access we get to extraordinary historical locations. Like this one, Stonehenge. I'm right in the middle of the stone circle now. It is an absolutely extraordinary place to visit. If you want to watch the documentary like the one we're producing here, go to History Hit TV. It's like Netflix for history. And if you use the code Timeline when you check out, you'll get a special introductory offer. See you there.
We all know the story. Roman Britain was a thriving, bustling place. But when the Romans left, a bunch of Germans came over, destroyed Romano-British civilization and introduced Saxon culture. Trouble is, there's so little archaeology that we don't know much about this time. That's why people call it the Dark Ages. But in Leicestershire, archaeologists have begun to find some clues. And one of their most promising sites lies here on Nave Hill in a rural part of the Midlands, 11 miles southeast of Leicester. Local archaeologists here have found hundreds of pieces of pot just lying on the surface. And crucially, one piece is decorated, pointing to the early Anglo-Saxon period from the 5th to 7th centuries. The good news is the sun looks like it's going to come out.
Yeah.
And we've got 300 manky pieces of pottery. Is that good news as well?
I think that's very good news. We've either got an Anglo-Saxon cemetery or an Anglo-Saxon settlement, and I think my money would be on settlement.
This isn't their picture?
Yes, it's not terribly informative. This dark area might be settlement.
What are we going to do with it?
Well, we've got existing results of field walking, and these dark blue areas coincide with the areas where they found most of the pottery. And what we're hoping is that these actual concentrations are sitting over the top of Saxon buildings. Now this one here, we're actually looking at it again, and then we'll put in a whacking great trench.
How big?
It's going to be 60 metres long by at least 5 metres wide.
Why so big?
Yeah, it sounds big, doesn't it? But it's really the minimum size. I mean, this is Kettleby, which is a very similar site that was excavated about 10 years ago, very close to here. You realise, well, on this plan, 60 metres, about that long, and plonk it there or there or there, you'd miss everything Anglo-Saxon. But the good thing about Kettleby is that this area of buildings and this one, they're on top of concentrations of pottery. So if we can find out exactly where our concentrations are, drop a trench down on them, we think we have a really good chance of being able to find our buildings.
So we're going to stick a trench in and we're going to come straight down on an Anglo-Saxon building. Aren't you being a tiny bit Mary Poppins? If you think of the number of Anglo-Saxon sites we've dug on Time Team over the years, and what do we get? Stains in the ground.
If we're lucky.
Isn't this going to be another 3 days of hell?
Well, what's the alternative, though? I mean, this is a pivotal point in our country's past, and we have a duty to investigate sites like this. This site needs investigation. The alternative is just to give up.
I've found buildings like that, and every time I see one laid out in the ground, I get a tingle up my spine.
Geophys get going with the huge task of investigating the hill. The aim is to locate the best place for a huge 60-metre trench. We're hoping that together the geophysics and pottery scatter will lead us to identify some post holes, holes in the ground that once held timber posts. These would have supported distinctive Saxon buildings, either halls or buildings called grub huts built over a pit. But before we even start digging, some amazing geophysics results throw a spanner in the works. Any joy, John?
We certainly
wow,
have.
look at that. That's very good.
That is really exciting. But it doesn't say Anglo-Saxon to me.
I thought the Anglo-Saxons liked circular structures.
But we don't get ditches like that around either settlements or cemeteries, do we?
I mean, look at this really large pit response. It's just possible that that could be Saxon.
Could that be one of these sunken featured buildings?
Well, that's what I was meaning.
Right.
Isn't this area here round where Phil wanted to put in his long trench?
Yeah, no, my thoughts are maybe shorten it.
Yeah.
You could do 35 metres, take in the enclosing ditch and look at some of the features inside, see what the date is.
I mean, after all, part of our job is to characterise what's on the site. So if it's Anglo-Saxon and it's Iron Age as well, we need to know that.
So this could be Saxon, but it could also be much earlier, from the Iron Age, the centuries before the Romans arrived. Phil opens a trench that will cross this ditch and, critically, the area of high concentration of Saxon pottery finds.
Oh, yeah, look at that, man. That looks like a post hole, doesn't it?
Well,
What's that? I want to clean this up, but I think it's a bit of decorated Saxon pottery.
yeah.
Yeah.
To a non-pottery expert, when I do that feels like stone
Oh,
to
you
me.
might be right, actually. Yeah, that's stone.
Phil's understandably cautious about anything he finds because we don't have a great track record of locating Anglo-Saxon settlements. In Langorst, we were looking for evidence of an Anglo-Saxon community.
There's nothing really.
So no bank, no ditch, no structures at all. We're dealing with a hedge then.
We'd basically a hedge line.
Okay, right. Well, we'll obviously stop.
Great. In Hartlepool, we opened up 7 trenches in search of an Anglo-Saxon nunnery, but found no signs of any structures.
So you've had a good time, but we haven't found anything.
We've had an amazingly challenging time. We had a lot of fun, but no, we haven't found anything.
But in Eastry, after 14 trenches looking for a Saxon palace, we thought we'd finally got something.
Tell me if this is evidence of a Saxon community.
There's some comfort that other archaeologists haven't done much better. There are only 8 fully excavated Anglo-Saxon settlements in the whole of Britain. Mick, why is Anglo-Saxon archaeology so hard to find?
Well, I think it's because at that time there's not as much pottery around. Some parts of the country there's none at all. And the whole material culture doesn't have as much metalwork, you know, it's not as much bronze and stuff like that. So it's very difficult for archaeologists to find. And of course, the buildings are built of timber. So when they rot away and disappear, it's not like Roman buildings, the stuff's not there to be found. So it's much more difficult to find the stuff.
And you're very optimistic about this place. Why?
We are very lucky here in Leicestershire and North Hampshire that the pottery survives on the surface. So, you know, from the field up there this morning, I've picked up that amount of material, which is probably more than you've seen in your whole career in Somerset.
I'm absolutely green with envy, you see, because we don't get as much of stuff like that down our part of the world. Here, you've got a whole sequence of things.
Yes, we've been at it for 30 years round here, and it is like fairies. You've got to believe before you find it, because this stuff is the sort of stuff you can walk over so easily. But once you actually believe it's there, people find it.
You probably know more about the Anglo-Saxons around here than anybody, and yet you're very excited about this site, aren't you?
It is a particularly big one. You know, this could be some sort of estate centre, but really, it could be, but we
please, guys, don't use the P word. If we start looking for a palace, we'll be here till Christmas and we won't find one. For a moment, let's just bask in the glory of all that fairy dust. But there is the possibility the finds didn't come from buildings here. Saxon pottery can also come from cremation urns, so there may be a cemetery on the hill.
The Anglo-Saxons buried people fully dressed in the ground, but also they burnt them, put them into pots, and then buried them in the ground. And if you can imagine a funeral pyre up here, you would see it literally for miles around. It would be a really spectacular thing.
So it looks like we've found a good place for a Saxon cemetery.
So this will be our first target up on top of the hill if we're looking for evidence for a cemetery?
I quite like that idea personally, yes.
Saxon cemeteries are often discovered by finding metal goods in the burials, so metal detectorists get going on top of the hill.
Oh, look at that,
We might well have one coming in there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back in Phil's trench...
Fantastic.
Oh, wow, that. Oh, look at those big, big
Yeah.
lumps of charcoal.
Yeah, that's it. We're in the money.
I think we are. We are.
2 post holes in a line. That's a building.
Well, I think that might be a... Oh, what's that? Go on then. What's that? How old is it?
Oh, it's a rim as well. Look at that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that.
How old?
Well, it's early mid-Saxon, so what? You know, 450, 850.
Wait till Tony hears this. Eddie was so sceptical as hell this morning.
He's
gonna eat some humble potato oil if they have anything to do with it.
Incredibly, on day 1, we've hit Saxon post holes, dated by pottery in them. If they are from a building, it suggests there's a Saxon settlement here. And we now think the pottery must have come from a settlement, not a cemetery, as metal detectorists haven't unearthed any metal grave goods. It's not long before Phil uncovers even more post holes in the ground.
Phil, you've got lots of little white flags. Have you found something?
It's a row of post holes, Tony. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, possibly a seventh, all in a line. And 1, 2, 3 of them have got enormous sherds of Saxon pottery in them.
When you say post holes, if they're all in a line like that, why couldn't that be a fence?
The thing is that the spacings between individual posts is so close that I don't think it is a fence. The only time I've ever seen anything like this before, it was in a Saxon building. And of course, having got these bits of pottery in them does suggest to me that we could be in a settlement, not out in the middle of a field.
In 15 years of time, team, can you ever remember us having a robust Anglo-Saxon house?
No, but I can think of many, many times when we've looked for one.
Do you think this is a building?
I think it's a very good chance that that's exactly what we're looking at. It's a real stroke of luck to find an alignment of post holes like this with, as Phil says, well-dated pottery right in the surface.
Was this on a geophys?
No, it's not. But remember, this trench was placed here because of the dense concentration of Saxon pottery.
So it really is luck. You just scraped away.
It was not lucky. It was the dense concentration of Saxon pottery. It was you who was dubious about it.
If we've got what you think we've got, what's the significance of it?
Well, the significance, first of all, is that we have very few buildings of this sort from this part of England. We don't have that many well-preserved plans of Anglo-Saxon buildings of this sort at all. So really quite exciting to find one. To find one again with dateable pottery, really very unusual.
So no hype, this is genuinely a really exciting archaeological find.
Absolutely, absolutely. These are not, easy to find, and there are very, very few from this part of England.
Well done, Phil. Your luck paid off.
It was not lucky. This trench was put in on the concentration of pottery. I told you.
That's what I said, lucky.
Unbelievable. It seems like we've got a Saxon building. But we need to excavate more to find out what the building is and to find other buildings within the settlement. We extend our trench from 30 metres to 60 metres long to try and find more Saxon post holes. As day one comes to a close, there's a huge effort in the search for more dark stains, in the hope of identifying a whole Saxon structure. But then something else appears in the ground.
This morning I was incredibly pessimistic about this site because whenever we've looked for an Anglo-Saxon settlement before, we've never found anything that I've found very interesting at all. But already today we've got these 6 or so post holes that indicate a major building. And now look at this. It may look just like a stain to you and me, but the archaeologists are saying that this is a grub hut, one of those big buildings with a big pit underneath it. So already this has turned out to be the best Anglo-Saxon settlement site we've ever had. Tomorrow can only get better. Day 2 here in Leicestershire, and yesterday we gave ourselves the seemingly impossible task of trying to find an Anglo-Saxon settlement here in this rather dreary and apparently never-ending field. And yet, within a couple of minutes of starting the excavation, look what we found. Over here, bish, bosh, 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 about 6 post holes, all in a line, which seem to indicate some kind of building. And then late in the afternoon, over here, where that yellow string is, something which Mick calls a grub hut. Mick, what exactly is a grub hut?
It's a type of Anglo-Saxon building which either has a sunken floor under it or it has a cellar under a suspended floor.
Is it called a grub hut because it's a sort of kitchen?
No, it's from the German Gruben house, and us archaeologists are really bad at foreign language, so we have to call it a grub hut.
I like your idea of a kitchen there.
Now we've got it, what do we do with it?
Well, you can see we've laid the string out because we're going to put a section across it to make sure that's what it is, and more importantly, see what finds there are in it, because that'll help us a lot to say what it is.
So we've got our rectangular house here, and apparently some sort of grub hut here. What does that tell us?
Well, this is the normal arrangement in Anglo-Saxon settlements. People are living in the halls, in those sort of post-hole houses. They're working in the Grub Hut.
Our Grub Hut could give us important clues to the people living here. Although the construction of Grub Huts is hotly debated, we know they were built over a pit in the ground, where today there might be important finds preserved.
My post hole.
Whose post hole? Who found it?
The post holes we found yesterday suggest a different type of Saxon building, one built without a pit and with posts.
I tell you what, now the sun's got up, it shows up ever so well now, doesn't it?
You can see the features
A
more.
lot better.
But we still don't know what this building is exactly. So Ian's delicately digging to try and find more post holes, while Geophiz are finding even more features.
Even though we're well into day 2, we've still only put in one trench. It's that long one behind us that Phil put in yesterday lunchtime. Although I suspect all that's about to change because John has wandered off over here and he's looking pensively at the ground. What's happening?
Well, look, you remember this curving ditch we had yesterday? It's now square. I mean, they're fantastic results.
What do you think it is, Mick?
Well, it looks Iron Age, some of this, but, you know, there could be Anglo-Saxon on the top of it. You often get that, you know, an Iron Age settlement with Anglo-Saxon material over the top of it.
So 10 past 11, day 2, trench 2.
Yep.
Tracy opens a second trench where we might find more signs of Saxon settlement. We can't tell from a building whether it was incoming Saxons from Germany living here or native British who adopted Germanic architecture. But the hill itself might give us a clue.
What a fantastic site this would have been for an Anglo-Saxon settler.
I think it's a bit drafty, to be honest. I think I'd rather be down in the valley bottom.
All right, it wasn't a fantastic place for them to live, so why did they live up here?
In the Iron Age, there were people living up on the tops of the hills, down in the valleys as well. Early Roman period, we find that progressively the sites on the tops of the hills disappear and the settlement is concentrated down in the valley bottoms. And then there's a whole new set of sites that come back up onto the uplands again.
So do you think they're different people on the top of the hills then?
I think perhaps up here we might actually be seeing the incoming Saxons on these hilltops, on these defensive sites, you know, slightly edgy places where perhaps newcomers into a countryside where they don't know what their welcome is might well finish up.
Eventually, the Saxons interbred with the native British. And today, it's possible using DNA to investigate whether someone's ancestors were incoming Saxons. We've commissioned a test on our own Phil Harding. He's got a Saxon-sounding surname after all. Phil gave a DNA sample a few weeks ago and he and Helen demonstrate how he did it.
Scrape briskly against the inside of the cheek for 20 strokes. You are collecting cheek cells, not saliva.
Right.
So be sure to press firmly against the cheek and rotate it while you're going.
Well, ho, 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 ho,
6, 7,
8, 9, 10, 19, 20.
OK, brilliant. And that one goes in there too.
Is that it?
Not yet, no,
Oh.
no. Seal the packet with tape and write your name in the box.
We'll find out about Phil's ancestry tomorrow. We'd been hoping we'd find even more of the Saxon settlement on the slope of the hill. But there's no sign of Saxon structures. But with Geophiz continuing to cover the field, it's not long before another target appears.
Look, we've got
crikey,
lots of
of stuff, actually,
responses,
yeah.
and these look quite interesting. Whether they're small enclosures, pits, it's got to be worth trying to date these.
So have you got a likely place that you'd like us to look at there?
Well, I think if we went into that sort of corner there where we've got a ditch turning.
OK, well, let's mark that out and let's get a hole in and see what it is. Keep our fingers crossed it's Saxon.
So Tracy and Ian move to open Trench 3 near the top of the hill. Stuart and historian Sam Newton are out investigating our hill's position in the landscape. There are Saxon-named villages around our site called the Langtons.
Church Langton, East Langton, West Langton, Thorpe Langton.
Tur Langton.
What does, I mean, is Langton any Saxon derivations at all?
Oh, Langton is the long enclosure, like Long Town.
Long Town, right.
The Langtons are separated from Nave Hill by a river with a ford linking them. This river was once the boundary of the 100, a Saxon administrative area.
I love these old routes where they've almost got forgotten now. You almost can imagine yourself walking the same route as all those generations.
Or in our case, a Land Rover.
Yeah, footbridge. This is a good place to see the site from, isn't it, Sam? You can see the people walking along the horizon up there. Where I've brought you, we sort of drove along through the Langtons up there. There's a site there, to Thorpe Langton. And we're at that crossing here of the river. Although this stream looks fairly insignificant now, you can see on the map it's a major topographic boundary. It's also a 100 boundary. Everything seems to be coming together, converging at this point. We've got a major river crossing, we've got major Saxon territorial administrative boundaries, we've got routes all coming together, and on the skyline up there is a settlement that we're digging.
So the river was a boundary in Saxon times. Routeways led to the ford crossing, from which the hill occupied a prominent position, suggesting an important site. And on the hill, Phil's revealing more evidence of a Saxon structure.
Cracking post hole, this one, Jackie. What's yours shaping up like?
Well, it's not the same shape as yours for a start off, but which might be a good thing. You know, it's not as deep as that. I think I'm getting close to the bottom here, but it's really horrible stuff down the bottom. I'm not entirely convinced I'm quite there yet. It's very, very mixed material.
The other thing too about them is the size of them. They're much, much bigger. Look at that third one there.
Yeah, they're quite substantial, aren't they?
They got to be structural.
Either that or it's a damn big fence.
This ain't a fence.
Not very likely, is it?
Not only that, if it was a fence, you'd expect to see it running on in both directions.
Yeah.
This is a discrete set of post holes. I'm sure it must be one side of a building.
Yeah.
So, not a fence, but a wall. But we still need more evidence to be sure there was a Saxon settlement here. And at the far end of Trench 1, Matt's just beginning to unearth something.
Paul, have you got a couple of minutes?
Yes, mate.
I'm just half sectioning this bit of pit that's coming out.
Oh, fantastic.
And yeah, there you go, let's get that. That's the biggest bit I've seen on the site so far.
Well, that's not Saxon. I'll have to see that one cleaned up, but that's Iron Age, I think.
Right.
Absolutely typical. Just like so many times before on Time Team, we look for a Saxon settlement and come up with something else. But then more pottery surfaces on top of the hill.
Well, however much I'd like, I can't make that into...
Don't try this at home, kids. Yeah, that's Iron Age.
So even more Iron Age on our site. Evidence of people living here over 500 years before the Saxons even arrived in England. And it's not long before Paul's dashing back to Trench 1.
We're in for a treat. Can I come down?
Yeah, come down here and I'll start handing you the goods.
Oh, fantastic.
More of that.
Yeah, it's all the same pot, isn't it?
Yeah. But look at this bit.
Oh, you got the... Oh, fabulous. Look at that. That's quite late Iron Age, I think, isn't it? That's really unusual. I haven't seen one quite like that before.
That's presumably the rim's up here, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's the top
yeah.
bit.
Might still be in there, actually. That break looks fairly fresh.
Well, there we go. He does it. Gently does.
Oh, look at that.
Another bit of that.
Oh, yeah. That's really nice.
It keeps coming, Paul. There.
Oh, gosh, there's loads of it.
And some more.
Oh, yeah, it's all the same pot, this. It's all the same vessel.
There's a break in the scoring there.
Yeah,
is that deliberate? Is that part of the decoration?
Could be, yeah. It's all the same vessel, definitely. Yeah.
We can see if we can
Some of these are really big. I mean, some of these scored were jars. We're talking about things like maybe this high.
Oh, really?
You know? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
ah.
there's the rim. Is that the same
It's.
vessel?
Oh no,
Oh,
sorry.
what's that?
It's a bit of stone.
Oh, it is, yeah. Oh, it's a big one, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh,
my God, it's going on and on.
Look at that. Ah. Oh, gosh,
Beautiful.
that's fabulous.
Now, that wasn't quite the rim I was expecting.
That's fabulous.
There you go.
There it is, yeah. That's
What do you make of that?
magnificent. Well, again, it doesn't look wheel thrown, does it? It's beautifully made.
Yeah.
So, great finds we'd be proud of on any dig. And the geophysics results keep leading us to fascinating Iron Age features. But these results and finds aren't helping us find the Saxon site. And in our quest for a Saxon settlement, there's another surprise. The best part of 8 hours ago, you said that they were going to start to excavate this Grub Hut.
Yeah.
Well, they don't look like they've done very much.
No, they finished it.
You're kidding?
Yeah, but it's not there.
There isn't a Grub Hut?
There isn't a Grub Hut.
You're joking.
No, I mean, we saw this rectangular stain, and the guy that's dug a lot of them locally said, yeah, he thought it probably was that. But when we emptied it, you see, it's only about 6 inches deep, and it's actually over the top of a late Roman ditch. So it's not a Grub Hut at all. We've lost that.
I can hardly hear what you're saying. My head is ringing with guilt after I bigged up this idea that we got the greatest Anglo-Saxon site we'd ever found.
Well, we may still have, because you remember the posts over here?
I do.
Well, this is the row here, look. We've
Oh,
been
they've come
finding
on, haven't
these.
they?
Yeah.
What about this one here? This is huge.
That's produced Anglo-Saxon pottery as well, and that may be the doorway through the side wall of this building.
Could be the doorway of a fence.
No, because if you come here, which might be the corner post, you can see there are other post holes going off at right angles to this row.
One there, yeah.
Yeah, and we're working on the basis that these buildings are often sort of 4 metres wide and 10 metres long. And then you see Phil's working at the top end there on what might be the corner post 10 metres away that way.
Phil, does that look to you like a corner post?
I've definitely got a post hole here, Tony, but whether it's the corner, that I can't be sure. You could remember, it could even be longer, this building.
Blimey.
But the problem is, you see, we've got a big area that we haven't dug there,
yeah,
which is where the side wall will be if it goes up that way.
But it ought to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we ought to find the other post somewhere around here.
That's right. So that would be the side wall, that would be the end wall.
And if we find another post here, then we could have our very first Anglo-Saxon hall.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, bring it on. As day 2 comes to an end, an entire Saxon building seems tantalisingly close. But one Saxon building doesn't make a settlement, and we don't have the second structure we thought we had. I don't think I've ever known a trench with more highs and lows in it than the one behind me. First of all, we were incredibly sceptical, then we found the post holes, then we found a Grub Hut, then we lost the Grub Hut, then we thought that the post holes might be a building, and is that building an Anglo-Saxon hall? Well, we'll know that if there are more post holes underneath where the machine is currently working, and the archaeologists start work there tomorrow. Beginning of day 3 here in Leicestershire, where we're looking for an Anglo-Saxon settlement. We may have a rare Anglo-Saxon hall here, but we won't know till the archaeologists have discovered whether or not there are any post holes in this bit. But apart from that, it's been a dig of real highs and lows. We thought we might have a Grub Hut here, but then that kind of disappeared on us. We thought that we might have the Anglo-Saxon settlement. Come on, Richard, up you come. But when we looked closely at this geophys and started to excavate it, all we found was Iron Age stuff. So, Mick, come here. Where is this settlement? That hall wouldn't have been stuck up there on its own,
no,
perched at the top of the hill, would it?
Extremely unlikely it's on its own. It would have been with others.
So where's the settlement?
Well, I think it probably is under the scatter of Anglo-Saxon pottery. Remember, we started by picking this area because it was the one of the densest areas of Anglo-Saxon pottery. The other dense area is in the field next door, so there's probably, you know, a row of buildings all down the ridge.
Yeah, but hold on. We've got a big scatter here, we've got a big scatter in the next field.
Yeah.
The gap between it is frankly huge.
That's right, that's right. So we can only strip part of that area in the time that we've got.
So what are we going to do?
Well, I think we take a piece, we take a strip along the top of the hill where there is pottery all across the top of the hill, and also along the top of the ridge is a very good site for these buildings, and we strip an area along there and hopefully find the post holes underneath.
But with 1 day left, that's going to be an enormous amount of work.
It is, but we've got a lot of people here who are free from all the trenches that have been dug. We've got some new people coming in from the Hallerton group anyway, so we'll have enough people to do that.
Our chances aren't great of finding anything.
No, no. I mean, if it's there, we find it. If it's not, well, you know.
But if there's a haystack and a needle, Time Team always knows how to extricate it. I can never say that word. Not content with finding one rare Saxon building, with just 1 day left, we're determined to find more of the settlement. There should be more buildings somewhere. Other Saxon settlements have had dozens. So Wraxshire opens Trench 4, where there was a high concentration of pottery finds. With such a challenge, we've asked for help from the local Hallerton group who found the original pottery, and Mick's giving a briefing.
First of all, thank you all for coming along. We really need your help today. The machine at the moment is taking off the topsoil to get you down to the level where you might see the post holes. But in this sort of conditions, it'll dry out so quickly, you'd be like scraping sort of lumps of concrete off in no time at all. So, you know, there's nothing we can do about that, but it is going to be hard work for you, I'm afraid. The faster you work, the more lunch and tea we have. Right?
Yesterday, Phil uncovered more post holes of what we think is a rectangular Saxon building. Today, he's trying to uncover the whole layout to confirm it's a Time Team first, an Anglo-Saxon hall. But spotting post holes in the sun isn't that easy.
Very good, Ian. I still can't see anything.
It's the way the sun shines, because you get a reflection off the clay. You just see the edge through there.
Yeah, you can. You can just about see. Actually, you get a better view up here than you do down there. Can I stand up here and watch? I'll sit up on the roof.
Right, move over.
I know we're there because in here somewhere I could see the edge of the ditch. Looking for post holes you're on the hiding for nothing.
Yeah, loads of post holes.
Post holes?
Yeah, I think that's another
Back in the new trench, and yet again, we're overturning 15 years of failing to find Saxon structures.
We've got a post hole here, and hopefully there should be a corresponding one just over there. But look at these, you can see them really clearly. There's another set just here.
Very good.
Wraxshire's post holes are evidence of another building. If it turns out to be Saxon, we hope that it might hold preserved clues to the people here on Nave Hill. And Stuart and Sam have found more reasons why people would have settled here.
So, chaps, why is our settlement on this knoll in this field and not somewhere else?
I think there are three good reasons why they're here. One is that there's quite a tradition of Roman settlement in this area anyway, quite close to the Roman road. So there's a continuity of agriculture potential already here. The second is this river valley that goes round the edge. Obviously you've got a source of water there. Yeah. You've got really rich alluvium, so it's good for arable.
So it's good farmland.
Good farmland, basically.
Yeah.
And the third very good reason is that you're on a high, dry ridge here. Given the context of flooding these days, it won't flood. So it's very, very simple reason why they're here.
But if that's the case, why isn't there a village on there now?
Then?
Because
that's
you know,
a very
all around
question.
I can see villages on the, you know, but on this knoll here there isn't a church and a village green.
We've got Langton here. We've got Church Langton's tower there. We can see a spire which is Tur Langton.
Yeah.
These have all become modern villages.
Yeah.
Well, they're all that side of the river. Yeah. That's a different 100 in the Saxon period.
Right. This is the administrative area.
That's right. We're in another 100 now, and on this side we've got one settlement in this parish which is over that hill over there called Staunton Wyville. Yeah. And what seems to have happened is that this pattern of dispersed little farmsteads have effectively been wiped out and the communities brought together into one.
So eventually, a settlement here would have disappeared when its people moved into villages, leaving the land for farming.
That one's looking like it's got quite squared edges.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're hopeful of finding more Saxon evidence that survived that time. Then, in our first trench, Matt and Helen begin to uncover something mysterious.
You can almost see a kind of...
irregularity.
Yeah,
to
kind of coming
it.
up. We
Yes.
don't have much.
We need to think of something that's got a ring of posts, of tiny little posts, and some in the middle.
I have seen kilns which have these kind of gaps underneath the floor, and then you can just pass the heat underneath them, but I don't really think the heat would have come from there.
It's a kind of kiln superstructure.
Yeah, this is kind of underneath.
Underneath structure.
But it's still way off that.
While in our new trench, the determined work is paying off.
Sorry, I am going to move.
These bottoms don't belong to the Time team, they belong to the Hallerton group, who are the people who found the Anglo-Saxon pottery here when they were field walking. And we've put this trench in to see if we can at last find our Anglo-Saxon settlement. First signs are good. They think they're starting to find some post holes, but are they Anglo-Saxon, Mick?
I think they probably are, because from over the top of them, in the topsoil, we've got a lot of bone. OK, that could be of any date, but we're getting Anglo-Saxon pottery sherds as well. And we've just got this Anglo-Saxon knife come out.
A knife? That's a good find, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing every Anglo-Saxon would have carried with them, you know, as a domestic item. So I think it's looking really encouraging at the moment.
Things are looking good again. At last, we're finding the everyday things that the Anglo-Saxons would have used. And crucially, the finds show the post holes must be from a Saxon building. We think there'd have been even more buildings here in Saxon times, spread over the hill. And on top of the hill, Tracy's been investigating geophys anomalies to see if they're Saxon or Iron Age. Having found an Iron Age ditch, now she's got pottery.
How have you got on then?
We've got late Iron Age pottery, but we've got early Roman as well.
Oh, right.
Things like that.
Well, that's rather nice, isn't it?
It's nice, wheel thrown.
So, Roman and Iron Age on top of the hill, but no Saxon site at all. There's also been lots of Iron Age pot in our first trench, as well as a strange feature Matt and Helen uncovered.
Wow, this is pretty spectacular, Paul. What is it?
It's a bread oven, as far as we can tell, Tony.
Well, why are there all these holes in it?
Well, you've got the solid clay base, and there would have been a dome over it to keep the heat in, so the holes are where they would have stuck wooden poles in the ground when they were building it to support the clay dome. And of course, once the clay's dry, you fire it, it fires the dome, it goes hard, and all the wood burns out.
Anglo-Saxon?
Iron Age.
What about all this lovely pottery? Is that Iron Age too?
It is, yeah. It's not actually from the oven. It's from a feature nearby, but the oven is the same date as well.
What do you think it is?
It's a big storage jar. It's absolute beauty.
How big would that have been?
Probably about that sort of height. It's very typical of the latest Iron Age pottery we get around here.
It's beautifully decorated, isn't it, with all these comb markings.
Oh, yeah, very nicely made, yeah.
But don't you find it frustrating, Mick, that we came here looking for Anglo-Saxon and we keep bumping into Iron Age stuff?
Well, not really, because you often get the two on the same site. You know, we often find Anglo-Saxon sites because we're looking for an Iron Age site, because we can see an Iron Age site on the geophysics because of the ditches and on the aerial photographs where features show up.
Why do you get them in the same place?
It's mainly because it's the same sort of economy. It's a subsistence economy. These are farmers who've got to produce all that they need from their own patch of ground. And that's true of the Anglo-Saxon period, it's true of the Iron Age. The contrast is with the medieval and the Roman period, where you can always nip off to the marketplace and get what you can't produce. These chaps have got to produce the same, all their own materials from the land around, so they tend to go for the same type of ground, the same areas.
And in our search for traces of the Anglo-Saxons, our last trench keeps on giving.
We've only got a few hours left and people are working frantically hard in this trench. Raksha, anything else come up?
Well, we've had a great flurry of activity and we have evidence of occupation here.
Go on.
See this red patch around here?
Yeah.
That's evidence of burning. And the question is it a hearth? We don't know. We need to investigate that. I know we don't have very much
2
time.
hours! 2 hours! So not just another building in our Saxon settlement, but very rare evidence of Saxon occupation. But just how many people gathered around fires on Nave Hill?
One thing that seems blindingly obvious about this landscape is that there are hardly any people in it. Would it have been the same in Anglo-Saxon times?
No, there were a lot more people in the Anglo-Saxon times. Maybe there were up to about 100 people on this site alone, and then we've got all sorts of other sites up the valley.
I still find it hard to believe what it would have been like with 100 Anglo-Saxons living just down there. Do we know from the documents what they might have been doing?
Well, we know for one thing from the language and the poetry that they really knew how to have a good time. And we know that as a primarily agricultural economy, the agricultural year would have been punctuated with the festivals, with great parties.
So Anglo-Saxon life wouldn't have been as bleak and horrible as the phrase Dark Ages leads us to believe.
Absolutely, yeah. The Dark Ages is really a complete misnomer. They were prospering in a very rich agricultural environment. Now, the word celebration was certainly one they knew a lot about.
These party-loving Anglo-Saxons have left their mark on the modern population. And several weeks ago, we submitted a DNA sample from Phil Harding to investigate whether he's descended from Saxon immigrants or the native British. And on our catering van, we've had a sweepstake as to Phil's ancestry.
Phil, come here.
You got the results?
Your DNA's come.
You look a bit nervous.
Well, there's a sort of certain element of trepidation, really.
On your mother's side, we looked at the mitochondrial DNA and we found that you're a descendant of a woman who lived 20,000 years ago in the Dordogne.
Yes, I like it, I like it.
Why do you like it so much?
Hey.
Why the fists in the air?
Because they were good flint nappers in the Dordogne 20,000 years ago. Yes, I knew there was. See, that's where I get it from.
Her descendants moved up following the herds of big game and eventually crossed into Britain. So I think from this result, it looks as though your maternal ancestor was one of the first people to come to Britain after the last ice age.
See? Good stuff.
So you're not Roman?
You're not Roman there.
God, it's getting better, it's getting better.
Oh, is that the male side to go?
So that's on the female side.
So far,
We've
so
also
good.
looked at your Y chromosome, which is coming down your male side. You got it from your father, who got it from his father, and back and so forth.
Tell me it's Roman.
No, no,
And there's a very clear signal in some cases of Roman Y
No,
chromosome.
you're not having
but
me.
not in yours. Not in yours.
Yeah.
Which makes you a Celt.
Well, I am.
You're positively prehistoric.
It seems Phil couldn't be more British if he tried. But is he representative of the modern population?
The genetic bedrock, if you like, of the whole of Britain and Ireland is Celtic. The Saxons and the Vikings really only contribute up to 10-20%.
So they were the sort of basic sort of invaders then that settled in amongst the Celtic people that were already living
and
here.
they didn't displace them. They didn't push them off into Wales and Scotland, as a common myth says. They didn't kill them all either. They just
Come on,
mixed in.
the Celts weren't here from the year dot. You were an invader too.
But we were amongst the first people to colonise it. You've heard what he's just said.
Certainly on your mother's side, that's almost certainly true.
Yeah.
So the land belongs to you, eh? Does it?
Yes.
There's a few flies in your jam pot.
Yeah. Get off my land.
If you want to know more about DNA and your heritage, visit the Time Team website. Phil's ancestors were here when the Saxons arrived with their distinctive Germanic building designs. And after finding even more post holes, we can finally begin the job of recreating the building we've found.
Now here, on this side, you'll notice that there are these two post holes.
So Phil's showing the layout off to our designer Raysan.
And we think this might have been more likely where the doorway comes in.
Okay.
So that you could actually come in and your wall line might even be somewhere slightly inside of that.
And that's on an east-west axis, is it?
The actual main building is east-west, yeah.
15 years and at last we've got this, Time Team's first Anglo-Saxon hall.
Phil, are you now absolutely confident that we've got our Anglo-Saxon hall?
Absolutely confident, Tony. In fact, I'm so confident that I decided to stand in the middle of it.
Doesn't it make you feel chuffed that after 15 years, we've finally got one?
It's been worth the wait, though, hasn't it, eh?
Not half. And just when we think our site couldn't possibly deliver any more...
It's
I don't know what the end's going to be.
It's quite extraordinary that.
Well, it's so well fixed in. But look, can you see? That's definitely been polished, look.
Do you know, is that bone or?
It could be bone. It's very dark.
I think it's a needle. There's one very like that from Kettleby.
There we are.
Oh wow.
Oh look, it's got a little perforation on one end.
It's one of those big needles.
So what would they have used that for then?
Well, something coarse, something like nets or something like that. I'm
Like
guessing.
fishing nets?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because that would go quite well, wouldn't it? Sort of winding through those
Yes.
nets.
As day 3 comes to an end, we found a preserved piece of early Anglo-Saxon life. Archaeologists in Britain have found very few buildings and settlements from the so-called Dark Ages, but at Nave Hill, Time Team have found 2 extremely rare Saxon structures. They'd have been nestled within a substantial community where people lived and worked, leaving us a few precious glimpses of their lives.
Raksha, has this trench come up to expectations?
This trench has been nothing short of fantastic. We know that Saxon people lived and worked here in the 7th century. We have pottery dating to that. And also out of one of the post holes, we found this fantastic bow needle.
What a lovely way to end the day. The Anglo-Saxon period is one of the most important times in English history, but the archaeology from it is frustratingly hard to find. Hopefully, though, here at Nave Hill, we've managed to get a little bit closer to the people who decided to make their home here 1400 years ago.